papers. Get the papers. This
You're
is
on.
Pop Culture Yearbook. On this show, we pick pieces of pop culture that were important to us in a given year. We then discuss memories and dig into those movies, albums, shows, and more. I'm Brad,
I'm Pete.
And I'm Giff.
and we are starting a new year tonight.
Oh, you know what we're doing? We're opening the yearbook.
Get it
That's
open.
Right. What page are we opening
What
Pete?
year? What page?
We are opening to page 1987, and I've
Oh.
got a really good feeling about this episode. Do you know why?
Why is that?
Because everything John Mulkern touches turns to gold.
That's pretty much right.
That is true. Yes, he's
So-
got the Midas touch.
1987, what a great year. And we wanted to work in another guest. And so we, as Pete already gave away, Johnny Mulkern, is on with us. And he has been one of our best supporters, and he's the creator of the best hashtags.
Yes, he is.
And
He's our number one fan.
Mhm.
he makes this show more fun and better for us every single week, and he has supported us in many different ways. So he is awesome. We consider him one of our classmates, even though he is not in our actual class.
No.
So,
he's a-
Johnny,
he's a
do you want to
class
tell
above
us what
for sure.
class you were in, and tell us a little bit about yourself?
I would love to. First of all, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate being here.
Oh, we can't wait.
We appreciate having you here.
I think there's a reason I might be a guest on this particular episode because 1987 was my junior moving into senior year in high school. I'm dating
Did
myself a little
strategically
bit.
pick it, thinking you might want to be on.
Yes. This was when you peaked, right?
Factually correct. I appreciate that.
Oh. We'd like to keep him for the whole episode, Pete. Come on now.
Guys, I appreciate it.
I'm kidding.
We'll see you next episode. Bye.
Yes. Thank you. Don't forget the hashtag. Yes.
Nah, he's been peaking ever since.
Yeah,
Yes.
he's been on the peak. I didn't say he ever came down. He's
Right.
just been, he got to the peak and plateaued.
That's true. It's tough to do.
Right.
All right.
Anyway, go.
anything
go
else
on.
you want to tell us about yourself,
Well,
or do you want to keep it in the background?
no, I would like to say that I found your guys' podcast well over a year ago, and it really hit home to me, being that I know all three of you on a personal level, and you're from my hometown, and the episode's content is right up my wheelhouse, right up my alley, if you will.
You found
You
our
did.
demographic.
You did scare me a little bit when you said right up my what?
I do want to just make one correction. Gifford is not from your hometown.
Thank
so-
you.
That's
Yeah,
right.
I thought you were gonna let that one sneak by for the first time in human history, but no, you would not let it go.
Homeschool?
Yes.
Will that apply?
Yes. Considering that this was the
it
first
will.
year of RTR.
That is correct.
That's
Yeah.
right. You were a Dane most of your career, right?
I absolutely was a Dane. I was only at night my senior year.
Yeah, that's right.
And what a year it was.
Oh, outstanding.
One of the best.
All right. So we were going to ask you, we always ask our guests, what are some, not related specifically to this year necessarily, but what are some of your biggest pop culture memories or influences that you've taken with you through your years?
Well, are you talking from 1987 per se?
Well, they could be, but they could be from any other time too.
Well, I focused on 1987 because, that's why I was on this episode. And MTV
That's okay.
MTV was the biggest factor for me. It was the music, the videos, the big hair bands, and 24/7 music. It was just something that really was a factor in my life growing up.
I have a follow-up question. So you lived in Tyler then, right?
I did live in Tyler.
Okay. So how did you get MTV?
Oh, good question.
Man.
Oh, is that not available
No.
over most cable?
We grew up with it because we had a satellite on our farm, but when we moved into Tyler, there was no MTV.
Let me back up. I was in Tyler until my senior year, and we moved out on a farm north of our hometown. And on that farm, we did have a satellite.
Oh, you did too.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what, Brad? You should be a lawyer because you really got him there.
Well, I was just curious because
Now,
I
hold on.
Gotcha, journalism.
there could have been maybe, I don't know, maybe I guess there was maybe a different cable package or something at the time or something.
Nope.
I don't know.
Nope. I stand corrected, as you will.
All right. Well, I didn't mean to correct you. I was genuinely curious.
Oh.
But yes, I got
That was
MTV
good,
at this time. It was wonderful.
Mhm. I did not. I
You
was
didn't
stuck
even
with,
get NBC.
I was stuck with ABC and CBS over the rabbit ears, as it were. So
Any other things besides that stand out to you, Johnny?
Yeah. Have you heard of the game Mike Tyson's Punch Out?
oh yeah,
It was
yes sir.
And how?
it was one of those games that I could not stop playing. Never did get to beat Mike Tyson, but one of those games that you played endless.
That was
Mhm.
going to be my
I-
follow-up question there too. I never beat him either.
I
Nope.
have defeated him.
Oh, Pete's our champion in the room
Yes,
tonight.
I have. There's my athletic. That's the extent of my athletic ability right there. See,
More
see,
the man
Mulkern.
I am.
See, I never peaked at all. I have yet to peak, but I have not peaked at all. I
That's,
never
that's a
even,
good way to look at it.
I've been
peaked when you
my
beat-
whole life has been at the base of the mountain, just looking up.
I think you peaked when you beat Mike Tyson, and that was about it.
That might be it. That's all I got.
Oh, I don't know about that. I think I remember a marathon in your past. That's a pretty
And-
pretty
oh.
good athletic achievement.
Big announcement! I just signed up for a half marathon later this year.
Nobody
So-
cares.
No, I
Big announcement.
Awesome.
I wasn't even going to mention it, but just because you brought that up,
Sure.
I just thought I'd add that.
Were
Yep.
there any other Nintendo games that you loved? Just curious.
No, not really. I played Mike Tyson more than anything else. There was a track and field game that I loved,
Oh
but
yeah.
I never was very good at it. I like the arcade track and field game better than the Nintendo one, if you will.
That's how you stayed in shape. That's how you prepared for the basketball season.
That's how he learned to dunk a basketball.
Yeah.
Which we learned last weekend when we saw Hum that Johnny, you were the first guy he saw dunk a basketball, which I'm assuming was in person, not on television, but
or in high school, right?
Right.
Like
So
at
he-
the high school level.
that was a formative moment for for Hummel to see somebody dunk a basketball. That was a big
Mr. Hummel, I thought
not Mr. Hummel, no, Ryan, our drummer,
Our
on
Mr. Ryan Hummel.
Mr. Ryan Hummel. Yes.
But Mr. Hummel probably had a big impact on you as well
he,
Yeah.
he absolutely did.
at this time.
Very much so. Both 1987 and 1988.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we got Punch Out. We got God, I already forgot. What was the first one?
MTV, track and
MTV.
field.
Anything else?
Well, a couple things that I remember from 1987 was the Ronald Reagan's "Tear Down This Wall" speech.
Oh yeah.
Was that in that year?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was in 1980. Yep.
Nice.
And I'm not a big political wonk, if you will, but that was a big thing in that era. And to hear him say that, and we had a lot of discussion about that in our school.
Yeah.
I have in my possession, I have 2 pieces of the Berlin Wall.
Wow.
I
Really?
think I remember that. How did you get those?
Paul Enemark. You all know him.
Yep.
And so he was over there, and somehow he got a bunch and brought them over, and I got 2 of them.
Cool.
Wow, Pete,
Wow.
you're bringing it tonight.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, he's just got everything.
Yeah, I came prepared.
I know this might age me a little bit, but there's this ballroom to the west of our hometown called the Showboat Ballroom.
Yes.
Was,
Yes.
A big thing
Yes.
in my world in my youth, and one of the entertaining things that I did as a youth.
Yes.
I have heard about that. I've never been there because it closed down by the time that we got old enough. But I
Well,
have
not
heard
exactly.
vicariously.
Not exactly.
Giffords
I
has
went
been
there
there.
once. I think
But
I was there
sadly-
for the last Holmes concert.
I
My
also
brother
have
took
never
me.
been there before. either.
Vicariously through my brother, I've heard many stories, but I have not been
I've
there.
heard many
personally.
stories about my sister, former guest on the show.
Yes.
Yeah, speaking of that guest, I know her personally, and she set the bar real high. So my goal is to just get up to that bar.
Perfect.
She did a really good job. So
She
yeah,
did.
that was a good one.
That was the episode where I started thinking, man, what can I do to get on big guest on Pop Culture Yearbook?
Throw some money on the
That's
buy
it.
me a coffee
Yeah.
site, and you're
That's
in.
all
pal.
it takes.
It
Yep,
goes a long
easy
way,
peasy.
doesn't it?
Pretty
It
much
goes a real
automatic.
long way. Yep. Oh, well, I will say, you really do well on this one. Johnny will bring you back for 88 and you can talk about senior prom and all those good things that happened, the state tournament and whatnot. So, yes.
I would be honored.
Awesome.
Any other of your influences here?
Well, this is the era of the big hair bands. There were a lot of the big hair bands, and up and down the radio dial, they were playing all sorts of them, and I followed them all and loved them all and bought all their cassettes.
Yes.
For those of you who don't know what cassettes are, that's what we listened to music on when I was that age.
Absolutely. Did you have a cassette player in the car?
Of course.
Yeah.
Sure.
I didn't have one in my first car, so.
Was it the player that came with the car, or did you get like a new stereo?
I got a new stereo, and boy, I felt like I was big time.
Yeah, that was always a really big deal to my brother. He always had to have a fancy new stereo put in.
I want to know if you got it at Terry's Electronics on Main Street, Tyler, Minnesota. It's not a plug; it no longer exists. So,
no, I don't think I paid that much for it.
Was it the kind that you probably not if it wasn't that expensive, but the kind where you could like detach the face so it looked like it wasn't? It was
not my first one. No, my first one was like a Kraco or a Craig or something, and I blew the speaker, not blew it. I cracked the speakers in the first week I had it, and had to drive around with squeaky speakers listening to Def Leppard and Motley Crue.
Oh,
but you did own one of those types of stereos.
I did several years later.
Nice. I never did, but I remember them all because my brother was big into that stuff. He's 1 year older than you, so I have a good connection to the group of the time there, at least.
Yep.
All right, and you got anything else on your list to start with us?
No, I think I'm off to a good start here.
Yeah,
let's talk about the Pizza Hut glory days.
Some good memories already.
Yep.
I probably waited on all of you at Pizza Hut.
You've served me many Super Supreme pizzas, and they were all fantastic. Every one of them.
Supreme.
Those are the best. Can't
never served me a Super Supreme.
Pete, how much did you steal from the restaurant?
I was usually with my parents, so I don't like back in those days. I don't know that we went there much as just a group of friends. We didn't go to Pizza Hut very much.
Red tumbler and the Parmesan shaker.
I wish I had those now. I mean, those were great, but
I can tell you for a fact, I remember a specific visit to Pizza Hut in 1987 because I went there after a movie with our friend Eric Haken, and I know the movie, and it came out this year, and we went there after for his birthday. So,
fun.
I'll save the movie, I guess, for a few minutes later.
Okay.
But I mean, we're going back to 87, and I've got a specific memory of Pizza Hut right there in my head.
All right,
awesome.
I've always got junk in my head.
Mm-hmm. and your trunk.
All right, so we're going to get into our memories then. So did you have different memories prepared to Johnny of the year?
Oh, I can make it up as I go. I've got all sorts of memories, from music to TV to sports. There's a big year in sports for me.
All right, well, you guys, how about you want to run through our memories of 87 first here then?
Yeah, why don't we do that?
All right. How about you take it away, Giff?
All right. Well, in 1987, the three of us we started in 5th grade. So we were over in Ruthden, which I was never a fan of the lunches in Ruthden. I don't know how you guys felt about them, but I thought they were a step down.
I remember bringing my lunch from home because my mom always had like good lunches prepared. I had a thermos and everything. I could bring like hot lunches.
Wow.
So,
ooh,
you had one of those good moms.
Yeah.
Good deal.
She's known for the cooking.
Yeah. So I remember that. I remember being in Mrs. Meyer's class, Meyer's Massacre.
Was I.
Yeah, we had three different classes. Mr. Borchard had a class, Mr. Blake, and Mrs. Meyer. And yes, as Brad said, he was in Meyer's Massacre with me, and this was a transformative year for me because I remember in 5th grade there was one kid that I could not stand. I wanted nothing more than to take him out. I'm not a violent person, never been in a fight, but I really wanted to fight this one particular kid from Tyler. But he had a buddy in the class who was bigger than me, And I thought if I went after him, that I would get beat up by this other kid named Travis.
I was gonna say, so let me guess. I'm the one you wanted to beat up, and
Yep.
and the friend was Travis.
Yes.
Still do, by the way, right?
No. So once we moved out of Ruthven and into sixth grade, early in that year, in sixth grade year, in Miss Duncan's class in the library, I remember Brad was behind me at a table, and in our boredom of that class, I would turn around and start talking to Brad, and that's where our wonderful friendship bloomed and began, and it's been nothing but a good time ever since. So
it's a lesson in perseverance right there.
That is. I cracked that nut, and we are excellent friends to this day. So that was just pretty much all I had for 87. I'll pass it on to Pete.
So yeah, as you said, this was pretty much the first year that we got to know you. So basically, for me and Brad, it was the best year of our lives. So
it is one of the best years ever. It's up there.
It is.
It was a fun year, that's for sure. And entering middle school, I just remember kind of being scared to move into a new school. I mean, we had only been in Ruthven for 1 year because, as we talked about a little bit, it's 3 towns. Our high school is, for the listeners that don't know us personally. It's Russell, Tyler, and Ruthven. And we went to elementary school. Everybody went to elementary school in their hometown. So we were just in Tyler, Brad and I were. And in 5th grade is when we combined. And so then Russell, Tyler,
actually,
and Ruthven
not
kids.
all the way, remember, because Ruthven still wasn't with us.
Sports. Yeah,
only
sports
2nd and 5th grade for some reason.
And the high schools, well,
really? I didn't remember that.
That's right.
The high school didn't either, but
integrating.
some kids, my brother took a bus with us to Ruthven because there was a senior physics class with Mr. Wabaki that they went over there to take.
Huh.
Okay.
So there was like a connection between the towns, but they were separate because, and Johnny probably remembers this, but the last game of basketball for RT was a complete beatdown by the Ruthven Vikings in 1987.
All right, guys, I'm going to pull the plug. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Too soon? Too soon?
We're really beating on him tonight.
I don't think it was his problem. I just, and actually recently watched that game. You can find that on YouTube.
Is it on? Seriously?
Yes, it surely is, and I've watched it myself.
It's hard because it doesn't have like the Ballatin ones later got some announcers going on. So,
Yeah.
but this one's hard to really
Very
pick him.
grainy
My
for
brother's
this
playing
part.
at the end of the game, and I can't even pick him out. I don't even know who he is. So,
Okay.
So yeah, a lot of sports memories because this is where it kind of all began. A lot of our RTR basketball memories, thanks in large part to Mr. Mulkern. This is just where it all began for us. Obviously, the Twins won the World Series that year. We talked about how '91 was one of the greatest years. This is one of the greatest years for that reason. First time that we had all ever experienced actually saw a championship, right? For a Minnesota team.
Yeah, we weren't around for the Minneapolis Lakers championships, so
Right, we were not.
no.
But also, this is the first time I've ever been to Walt Disney World. Was in January of 1987. So
really?
it was a Christmas gift that my parents had got me the Christmas before. And then we went actually in January, right after that Christmas. And so great time. It was just me and my mom and dad. So we did, we did Disney World, we did the Magic Kingdom, and we did Epcot Center, and they didn't have
that's probably all they had back then.
I think so. I think we did 3 days, and so we did one park one day, the other park the next day, and then we split that third day between the 2 parks, kind of doing them again. So
Although we went in '91, and the Hollywood Studios, I think it was called MGM Studios, was there then. So it couldn't have been long after you were there that they.
Yeah, it wasn't.
opened that
They
up.
didn't have it then. At least if they did, I didn't know about it. So, yeah, that pretty much sums up my year. I can turn it back to Brad.
All right, so yeah, you guys hit on the big thing. I mean, this is the first year of RTR schools in the fall of '87, our 6th grade year. We were all officially together. When you brought up 5th grade, it reminded me of something I left off my list that I need to mention. One of my best memories of these years was Garfield books.
Oh yeah.
Getting every new Garfield book that came out and reading it over and over again. my God. And if you want to go back and listen to me talk about Garfield, you can listen to our Halloween one. So
Yep.
you won't be disappointed.
Uh,
A couple things I got down that you guys didn't mention is this was a time where we had summer rec. And so we took a lot of trips. Like we went to a Twins game and
yes.
probably went to Valley Fair in the summer on these summer rec trips, or we're involved in activities like baseball or t-ball or flag football or whatever. And that's a big memory I had of the summers. Going along with also, we lived on a farm. My parents would go to work, and so I would be brought into town where both my grandparents lived, and I would be at their house every day in the summer. And so either I'd go to summer rec or I'd just go to the pool. And it was just, the summers were just fantastic because I got to go into town and have a bike there and do whatever I wanted. And the only other memory I wrote down that is really big is this is probably about the time I started playing in my yard with. So you guys will all remember the little bats you could get at the Twins games with the mini bats with the there is one.
There's one
Johnny's
right
got
there.
one.
Yeah, Mulkern game prepared.
I
Yep.
would take those little bats and I would take a golf ball sized wiffle ball and I would go in my yard and I'd set up a baseball field and I could play that for hours. I would simulate entire seasons of Twins baseball. I imagine being a GM and different pitchers they were going to sign and then running through games. But living on a farm as a kid with my siblings being way older, I mean, I had nothing to do and nobody else to hang out with. And that was like how I spent most of my time, especially
Yep.
until I got that Nintendo about a year later.
Mm-hmm.
So those are my memories.
Cool.
We should probably mention too, I don't think we've officially said, it's a little late now, but usually we have a specific topic to talk about that we pick.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Maybe we should explain
What we're doing here
We're
tonight.
not doing that tonight. You might have already guessed, but this is just a overview of '87 because this is such a year with so many great movies and music things and TV shows that we wanted to we're going to do the next 3 weeks will be one specific topic that we'll get into, but we wanted to hit on so many other things. We thought this would be a way to try to combine them all into one, which also works well with having a guest on board who can talk about all of it.
Yes.
So, and we broke it into chapters in our yearbook. That was chapter 1 right there, everybody.
Well,
That
I
was
want to
chapter
hear.
memories.
I want to hear a little more in depth of Johnny's end of junior year into senior year. That's I would be pretty interested because I mean, we've got the gambit kind of covered here between 6th grade all the way up to a senior in high school. So I mean, I'd like to hear what was going on up at the high school at this time.
Well, when you three were in diapers, I was a junior in high school.
Hey, I told you not to bring that up. That was a doctor thing. It was required by the doctors for me to be wearing those diapers.
Yeah,
and we still are, by the way, or at least are again.
But now it was obviously a big year because my junior year we were Russell Tyler, as you know, and then Ruthen was who we paired with, and we knew it was coming. We had votes on the colors, the team, the mascot, all these things. And like Mr. Sorensen or Mr. Brad brought up here, my final basketball game was a really, really tough loss to that Ruthen team. So we had to pair with the team that kicked our butt, let's say. So
hey, you know what? The ultimate, if you can't beat them, join them, right?
Yep.
Exactly. And it worked out well.
Yep.
Did you play football?
I did not play football.
Okay.
Really?
So can you talk about, so
surprising.
basketball season started in '87. What was it like combining the schools and that? And everybody expected that team to be great. I mean, this is a team that was going to be great from the get-go, but you guys were coming from different places and we were young. We all kind of got along, but you were seniors. It's your last year. How did that go?
Yeah, it was, they had some really good kids, I call them kids, and when they're 18, I suppose, but good people, if you will. And I knew a couple of them on a personal level. And when they came over, it was a real good integration. Now, we weren't expected to be the best team in the area. There, I don't know if you guys remember, Ballatin was kind of a monster in the block, and they were really good. I mean, because we didn't know what we had, and when we came together, it took us a while. We didn't necessarily gel right away, but it didn't take too long, and we got up to speed, and things took off after about a month of practice with the new kids.
That's right.
Awesome.
New coaches, the Ruthin kids, like you said, had Coach Wabaki at the time, and he did not come over our senior
Yeah,
year.
that too. Like, how did everybody deal with, oh, now we got to have a different coach? And were they all accepting of that? Or
The head coach was Coach Ray Riley, one of my favorite people of all time, and
Awesome guy.
and then JB Bauman came over and was the assistant. So we had representation from Russell and Tyler, and we had representation from Ruthin, and those two really took the lead on the program.
Cool.
Yeah.
How long was JB a assistant? Did he leave after Todd's
I thought it was
year?
after Todd graduated. Yeah.
Okay.
After Todd Bauman. We're talking about, just to get to our audience, the star player was, other than Mulkern, was Todd Bauman, who.
well, not this first year though.
Not
Not in
this first
87.
No,
year.
not the first year. He was a freshman this year, right?
That is
Yep.
So he had an older brother, Troy Bauman, who was on the team and was one of the stars on the team.
Speaking
but
of
Todd
my
Bauman,
sister, her boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
eventually did have a career in the NFL. Todd Bauman did, with part of that with the Vikings and some other teams as well. The Saints, the Packers, the Jaguars. Anybody else? Any other teams?
I don't know.
Saints, Packers, Jaguars, Vikings.
But from our little tiny town,
Yeah.
we do have an NFL quarterback that had some success even. So
Yep.
Yeah, NFC Offensive Player of the week that I was actually at the game. And so that
Were you
was
coaching?
quite a treat. I wasn't coaching, but I had great seats for that game. It was against the Tennessee Titans. He threw for 4 touchdowns, and I think about 350 yards passing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, and I would like to say that, as a 6th grader at the time, this team was larger than life.
Yeah,
This
literally.
this was the kids in our high school, and can you go through the starting lineup size, the height, John?
I absolutely can. And for your listeners, we are not a big community. We're not a community at all. I mean, I graduated with 65 people, I think it was.
And that's bigger than ours. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
a big
yeah, like the year
class.
before, I know my brother's class was 37. So
Right.
that's how little it was. And then we added a few more. But
Yeah.
so yeah, and this is the most rare thing ever. Talk about how tall this team was.
Sure. Well, just the starting lineup, we were 6'11", 6'6". I'm 6'6" for your listeners that can't see me. 6'11", 6'6", 6'4", 6'2", and 6 foot. So all 5 kids over 6 feet tall in small town Minnesota.
Yep.
It was amazing. It really was.
And then you had big guys coming off the bench too.
About to say that we had 6'6" and 6'5" come off the bench, and a couple other kids that contributed who were 5'10", 5'11", which isn't short by any means.
No. So I mean, for us as 6th graders, I mean, it was just amazing to see these larger than life characters out there. And I mean, you guys
And they could
were
dunk.
awesome. Yeah, and they could dunk. And I mean,
It was a show. Those games were pure entertainment.
Yeah. Well, and then you look at our senior class. I mean, Judah was 6'3" or 4, I think, 6'3", and that was about it. We were all very short,
and that's normal. That's it.
Right.
Living here in the cities, I mean, living in big districts and suburbs, there aren't many teams that have that many guys that are that tall at a time.
Right.
And a 6'11" guy is rare, anytime. And to have that plus other tall guys is pretty crazy.
Right. So all you guys are out there. I mean, you're dunking. It's phi slamma jamma all over the place in this little, tiny school of 3 towns, and it was awesome. It was just amazing to see that, and it was a lot of pride to look up to that. And so
I can tell you firsthand, it was a lot of fun, that's for sure. But it was really cool because our basketball team really brought the communities together.
Yes.
And you could really, there was some division, we're brand new. We don't know what we got, but man, when things got rolling on the basketball court, the fans came out, the families came out, everyone really gelled.
That's such a great point, because not just kids trying to get along, but even in these small towns, everybody's so territorial and loyal to their town. Like parents, and even still till recently, I mean, they do not always agree and want to share. But when you have a team like you guys have that goes to the state championship game and everybody just loves, that's a huge way to make a quick gelling.
Transition. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
made the transition so much easier.
Yep. Sports
Yes.
bring communities together. There's no doubt about that. And you guys did a great job
Absolutely.
of it.
I think I should also give a shout out to the cheerleaders. They were fantastic too.
Yes, please do, because I was also very enamored with them as well.
Oh, thanks. See, again, this is my sister we're talking about now.
Well, she's not the only cheerleader that was out there.
I know, but still, you didn't say who, so.
There were a lot of very, I would say, spirited young gals cheering
Yes.
on the team.
They were fun.
Mhm.
We always had spirit. Yes, we did.
Yes, we did.
We had spirit over
How
you.
about you?
Yes. Oh,
All right. Are we ready to go to chapter 2, or do we have more to get into about our little school?
I think so. Sounds like
All
we're
right.
ready.
I think we're
All
good.
right. So hopefully people enjoyed that and can relate to some of that stuff. And many people will listen from back in those times.
Yeah.
Chapter 2 then is movies. And so we will talk about one movie this month that Pete has selected. That'll be coming in 2 weeks. But when you look at the list of great movies that came out that year that we all love so much, this is our chance to try to throw a bunch of titles out there and at least say a few things about them.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just going to do a round robin, and we'll just go and somebody throw out a movie, and we'll say what we remember and talk about it, and then we'll go to another one. All right. As our guest, Johnny, is there a specific movie you've got with you that you want us to talk about?
Absolutely. One of my favorite movies of the year was Good Morning Vietnam.
Ah,
Oh, yes.
Robin Williams. Yes.
Yep.
That
Rob
was-
Williams, rest his soul. We all knew him as an amazing comedian, but this was the first time I think I saw him in a movie per se, and
Mhm.
it still transcends time.
And this role, I mean, it's a comedy, but I haven't seen this forever and ever, but I mean, it's pretty dramatic too, isn't it? Like
Yep.
his role.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's like
Yeah,
a
I think
whole
so.
new side kind of to him that people maybe didn't know he quite had.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't remember necessarily watching it back in '87. In fact, to be fair, I mean, most of the movies that I'm going to bring up tonight, I didn't actually watch in '87. I probably watched them on video later.
It's okay,
but
Gifford.
I probably didn't see Good Morning Vietnam until maybe like 3 or 4 years later. But I mean, he's such a large character and just steals every scene that he's in. And yeah, it's a great movie.
Pete,
All right.
have you seen it?
No, I think I've only seen it once. And
I've
I
only
don't
seen it once
remember-
as well.
I don't remember it, and so it's definitely one that I should go back and watch. But I do, I remember all the hubbub around it. I remember, all the promos and everything. And yeah, I mean, Robin Williams has had he was a great actor. In fact, he probably should have won an Oscar at some point in his career. He was that talented. He could have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was up at least once or twice, right? I think. Well, he's probably
Yeah.
Dead Poet Society.
He
Yeah,
actually
and,
won.
something like
He
that.
actually won for Good Will Hunting Best
Oh,
Supporting.
did he?
Oh,
Yeah.
he
Best
won
Supporting
there.
Actor.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, he was nominated for Dead Poet Society, Good Morning Vietnam.
Oh, he was nominated for this too.
He was nominated for Fisher King. So those are the other nominations that he had.
Patch Adams was another really good one that that could have been. I know it wasn't probably Oscar caliber, but it was a great movie.
Well, he
And
did a
that,
couple of great ones around little after that. Insomnia, and 1 Hour Photo.
Yep.
Like really dramatic,
Oh yeah.
weird
Dark.
kind of darker movies. Yeah.
Mhm.
Anything you want to say about this movie, Johnny?
No, I saw it live. I saw it in the theater, not live. I saw it in the theater when it was came up. Little movie theater that we all went to. On Monday nights, they had $2 movies. I remember going every week.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
And I bet in '87 the Marshall Movie Theater probably had 2 screens still, right?
Nope, it was. Oh, was it 3? Because it was
Well,
one.
it went from 3 to 6, I thought.
Well, it didn't have 3 though until close to when we went to high
Yeah,
school.
I thought that was later. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I
Third
mean it
one
did
was
when we
that.
were in high
I
school. It
remember
did, but
that.
it would have been around this time maybe that they added the 3rd one.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think there were 2 to the left and 1 to the right.
Yeah, because in '86, I remember going to Top Gun in the movie theater in Marshall, and I thought there was 3 then.
Oh, I guess I don't know when they opened the 3rd
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, because I know it went to 6, I think, when we were in high school, right? When did it go to 6?
I feel like that was after we left, actually.
Was it? Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
Isn't it funny that we're talking about a theater that has a sixplex?
Yeah. Yeah.
Still
Who knows
does.
what it is now? I have no idea.
I think it's still 6.
It's still 6.
Okay.
And the last time I was around there, anyway.
Okay.
We actually went. I guess it's been a while now, but we went and saw Frozen there back when we were home for Thanksgiving one year when it came
Okay.
out. So that's fun.
Cool. That's where I saw Dumb and Dumber in the movie theater. I was home for Christmas and took a bunch of cousins to Dumb and Dumber in Marshall. It was awesome.
All right. Hey Pete, how about you pick a movie?
Well, you mentioned Thanksgiving a second ago, so I'm going to throw out Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Nice.
Probably the best movie of the year in a great class of movies. In my opinion, this was the best. And it's a Thanksgiving classic. Got to pull it out every year. There aren't very many Thanksgiving movies. This is the only one, and that I can think of, but it's just a fantastic movie. We all love Steve Martin. Brad, I know you're a huge Steve Martin guy, and it has that kind of, it's a very funny movie, but it's actually got some sad parts. It's got some dramatic parts as well.
I cry at
Just
the
has
end every
everything you
single
need.
time when he goes
It
back
does.
to get John Candy.
It does make you cry at the end. So that's what I have on my
Paul
list.
Young song playing as they walk up to the house.
Yep.
Oh my God, it's so good.
The thing that bothers me is that they walk down the middle of the street side by side. That's the only problem I have with that movie. But other than that, tip top.
Okay.
I remember the first time I saw that movie. I was staying at our friend Joe's and in Ruthven, and we were there. It was actually pretty sure it was a weekend of a big, huge snowstorm where I got to stay an extra night because I couldn't go home.
Lucky. Those are the best.
And we rented that movie from whatever video store they had in Ruthven, and we watched it, and I loved it right away, obviously. And I've seen it, I don't know, 100 times.
Right. Yep.
And those are two great actors that feed off each other so well, and there are so many great lines. And not even just from them. Some of my favorites are from the dude that picks them up in the car.
People
Less than you're a hog or a kettle. Get your ass out there and help them with that trunk.
Oh my God. Johnny, what do you got on Planes, Trains?
Those aren't pillows.
That's right.
How about them Bears? Did you catch that game last week?
Hell of a game. Yeah, I mean, I think Pete nailed it. I mean, this is in a great crop of movies. This one is way out there. It's so good. I love John Candy. I mean, Steve Martin's outstanding. We've talked about him before on this podcast. But John Candy is so lovable. Just so much heart in this movie.
Yeah, it's such a great role because he's so funny and kind of doofus at the first, but he nails those at the end and everything else. He's got great chops.
Yep. Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
Okay. Giff, what's another great 87 movie?
Oh, a great 87 movie. Luckily, we all got to see it because originally it was rated X for all the violence that was in it, and that is RoboCop.
Wow.
I've never seen that movie.
You've never seen RoboCop?
Nope,
Oh my
I'm
God.
out.
I love this movie.
It was rated X?
It was rated X due to violence.
Oh my God, I never even knew that either.
So there is
I didn't know that.
There's a huge scene in the movie where Officer Murphy is shot multiple times, very graphically. His hand is blown off. It's a lot of violence. Obviously, I don't believe I saw it in 1987 as an 11-year-old, but it was great. I absolutely loved the story of it. For those who don't know, it's a police officer who dies and his body is donated to science, and he becomes the ultimate crime-fighting machine of RoboCop. And I loved it. It was right up my alley. I wasn't worried about plot holes or anything like that back then. It's just a good one, and I've watched it many times since. The sequels are no bueno, but the first one I really enjoyed.
Hold on. A minute ago, you said it wasn't realistic that Steve Martin and John Candy were walking down the street in the middle of the street, and now you're talking about RoboCop.
Well, I have a different level of
Expectation
when it comes to Steve Martin and John Candy than I do with a RoboCop.
All right.
So I'm out on this one.
Point that
But
out.
you guys have seen it and have something to add.
I've only seen it once or twice back in the day as well. I don't have a lot to add to that. Don't have a lot of memories of RoboCop, honestly.
All right. Well, I figured I'd bring it up early because I didn't think you
That's
guys.
good.
Yeah.
It made my list.
Did it? Awesome, Johnny.
I'll say I watched it in the theater, and I can't remember if it was Marshall or not, but the memory I have is that there were sequels to this movie.
Yeah.
We're in the era,
Oh, yeah.
a lot of sequels, and this one had 2 or 3.
Yeah,
Well, it
I
had a
remember that too.
reboot. It had 2 sequels and a reboot. Yeah.
Who knew there was that much content from Robo?
A lot of demand.
Right? Yeah. It was a great one. I love it.
All right. So Pete, you brought up planes, trains, and automobiles. I got a lot of movies listed here, but the first one I want to bring up is if there's another movie that's better than that came from this year, this may be the most perfect movie that has ever been made, in my opinion, The Princess Bride.
Yes.
And if we were going to do an episode on a movie, I'd pick one of those two. And I want to do one on The Princess Bride, and so maybe we'll do it some other day. But this is simply one of my favorite movies of all time. I can quote every word of it all the way through. It's perfect. It's
Very
perfect.
quotable movie.
It's got all the parts. It's got the funniness, the drama, the action, just like the grandpa sells it to Fred Savage in the beginning. And I don't ever go a year without watching this movie at some point.
Yep. Robin Wright's first movie.
First movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a movie that, sorry if I'm just jumping in here, but
Nope.
it's a movie that you can watch with your kids because
Yes.
we watched it. It's, we watched it about a year ago. It was sometime during the pandemic when we were watching all kinds of movies. This is one that we picked out, and both our kids loved it, especially our now 10-year-old daughter. Is one of those movies too that she was able to get into and follow along and understand while us as parents were able to laugh at it, and
It's timeless.
it had everything. Yes, exactly.
Yep.
Go ahead, Geoff.
I am ashamed to say that the first time I watched this movie was in 1995 in college. I'd never seen it until then. My roommate had it at the house, and he was flabbergasted when I said I'd never seen that movie. So he said, well, we have to watch it right now. So we put in the VCR tape, as Pete likes to put it, and we watched it. And right away I was taken with it. It's just so good. The Wesley character, Miracle Max is awesome.
Yeah, you got Billy Crystal in there, Carol Kane.
And our buddy from Clueless, Brad, help me out. What's his name?
Wallace Shawn.
Wallace Shawn's character is
Inconceivable.
amazing, right? Mandy Patinkin. There's so many great characters.
And you didn't even mention Andre the Giant.
I
who
did not
steals the
mention
whole
Andre
show.
the Giant, but my favorite line from that entire movie is when they're looking to break into the castle and Wesley is not well yet. And so they're telling him everything they're up against. And he just goes, now, if we only had a wheelbarrow, now that'd be something. It's just such an off the wall comment. And I love that line. It's just the best. So yeah, I love that movie.
I got a couple lines too, but Johnny, do you have anything you want to say about this movie? It looks like you like Andre the Giant.
I was just going to say you guys are forgetting the biggest star of the movie.
Literally.
No, I did not see it. I did not see it in 1987. I saw it many years after that. And when I saw that Andre the Giant was in it, I'm like, how have I waited so long to watch this?
Mm-hmm.
It's gotten better over time for me. The first time I loved it, and I've even loved it more and more over that.
Yeah,
Yep.
it bears many repeated viewings. Around the same exact time, Gifford, I love the line. It's such a good little throwaway line, but they go up and they ask the guy guarding the castle for the gate key, and he says, "I have no gate key," and he goes to Andre the Giant. tear his arms off. And he goes, oh, you mean this gate key?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And then everybody knows that you killed my father, looking for the six-finger man. But when he finally, it's so powerful when he gets him at the end and he says, I'll give you anything. And he says, beg me, anything I want. Offer me everything. And he says, I'll give you anything you want. And then he just stabs him and says, I want my father back, you son of a bitch. Oh my God. It's just goosebumps.
Very good. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. It's got the laughs, it's got the heart, and it's got the touching moments as well. It's got everything. It's
hello,
awesome.
lady. All right, let's maybe get a couple more in here. Johnny, what's another movie?
Dirty Dancing.
Yes.
All-time classic for me.
Yes.
I had that one written down because I would be remiss if I didn't mention it because it is my wife's all-time favorite movie. But go ahead, John.
No, I knew that.
kind of cut you off. Go ahead.
No.
What?
Don't put Johnny in a corner here, Pete.
No, not in a corner. No, this is in the era of Patrick Swayze on his ride to the ascension of being the big male actor in all these movies. And it was just a feel-good movie at the time. And quite honestly, I don't quote movies like you do, but these poppy movies, if you will, are the ones I really enjoyed going to.
Yeah.
Not to mention the soundtrack, that was played.
I'm going to bring that up when we talk about music.
Okay. It was just,
wow.
song after song after song, and the radio stations we listened to would play it too until your ears bled.
It was huge.
Yeah, you could have the time of your life listening to that soundtrack.
I have not seen this movie for many, many, many years, but I did watch. Netflix has the movies that made us. If you've ever watched that show, I did watch the episode on this movie when it first came out, and so kind of went back and learned some more about it. What?
Oh, I guess I don't know if I remember watching that one.
It was in the first four batch that came out with Die Hard and I think Home Alone. And
then I would have had to.
Yes.
Okay.
I think
yeah, that's a good show.
I'll put a plug in for that because Netflix, they need plugs. So.
Yeah, they need something. Yep.
But yeah, it's a good movie. I can still remember a lot of parts of it, even though I haven't seen it for 30 or more years.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, and like for me, it's one of those movies that I'm always a little sad when it's over because you just want it to keep going. I love this movie. The first time I saw it was at Lori's spring party in 6th grade, 1988.
Oh, I remember that party.
Yep, and that was a very big party for me.
Me too.
Not together, of course, Brett and I, but that was my introduction to it, and it's just such a wonderful movie, excellent characters, and for me, this is the third in the trifecta for Swayze films for me personally. We've talked Roadhouse and we've talked Point Break, but we have not talked about Dirty Dancing yet, and this is on equal footing with those other two, in my opinion. He's just awesome.
And it's one of those movies that seeps into pop culture and people know it even if they haven't seen it that much. Like one of my favorite movies, romantic comedies, I think you're a fan, right, Giff? It's Crazy Stupid Love.
Yep.
And they do the whole Dirty Dance. I mean, they reference it a bunch of times in there, and Ryan Gosling picks up Emma Stone. It's awesome.
Yep. Yeah, it's so good. That's my move. Does it work?
That's my move.
Yeah. I could do the Dirty Dancing move.
So I remember they came out with Dirty Dancing Havana Nights, and because my wife is such a huge fan of the show, we had to go see it, and it was very disappointing. I mean, it was just not that great. It was basically a remake. It was the same storyline, and a lot of the lines were the same, a lot of the shots were the same, but it was it all took place in Cuba, but it just wasn't. It wasn't enjoyable. It's like, why did they do this? But I had a T-shirt because they gave everybody that walked in the door free T-shirts because it was a promotional thing. But it was very disappointing. That said, the original movie, Jenny probably pulls it out. It's been a while since we actually seen it, but we do watch it, once every couple of years or something, and I do enjoy it.
Yeah. What is another movie you enjoyed from 1987, Pete?
One that I think is kind of probably an under the radar for a lot of people. Brad, I know it's not under the radar for you and me, but one that I did watch over and over again. Just a great, great film. Tom Hanks and Tom Hanks, Dan Aykroyd in Dragnet.
Yes.
Just a hilarious movie, and it's very, very quotable. Start to finish, it's awesome. I loved it then. I still love it now. We did watch that one a few years, maybe I think during the pandemic as well, and it was just great. Love it.
I just watched it over spring break because I didn't go anywhere this year, and I watched a whole bunch of movies, and I rented and watched it, and I still loved it.
Mhm.
Tom Hanks in 80s comedies. I mean, obviously he's a great actor and went on to all these wonderful things, but some of those are just so much fun to watch and see him
Yeah.
just like go for it. And
This
he's so awesome in this movie.
This was really, he had been in other movies and other stuff before, but for me, this was his breakout movie. This is
This
where
would
I
have been probably
really,
the biggest one for us.
yeah, back in those days, this was really, when I loved Tom Hanks as an actor. He was in a few other movies, like Splash. Maybe I think did Splash come
Bachelor
before
Party.
that?
I had seen
Bachelor
Splash.
Party. Also, The Man with One Red Shoe was another one that I enjoyed, but I don't know if I still would, but I remember it coming. Dabney Coleman was in that one too, I think. Anyway.
Dragnet also has a special meaning to me because this ties into our later on sports memories, but I was lucky enough to see Game 6 of the 1987 World Series, and it was the last day game in World Series history. And I stayed with my brother who had the 2 tickets, and he was at the U, and we went to see Dragnet that night at the Varsity Theater at the U after the Twins game. What a day! What a day!
Saw a grand
with a
slam
grand
by
slam.
Kent Herbeck, and then went to Dragnet.
3-run homer, I think, by Don Baylor.
2-run homer by Don Baylor.
Oh, I thought it was a 3-run. Okay. I stand corrected.
Gifford. We'll get to that later.
Well, yeah, I'll go next because this is a massive hole in my pop culture knowledge. I have not seen this movie. And I am ashamed to say it because I love Tom Hanks in his early career. One of the best is The Money Pit. He was amazing in The Money Pit. And Dan Aykroyd, of course, is unbelievable. So this one I have not seen, and I'm ashamed to say so. So I'm going to pass it on to Johnny.
What Giff said.
Okay.
Well, what Pete said. You said it's an under the radar one that people
proves my point.
Yep.
Yes.
It's I know that I have seen it. It's been many.
Oh, you have seen it though.
30 plus years. I cannot quote it like you guys can. I obviously love Tom Hanks, but it's not one of the movies that stuck with me from this year.
All right. Fair enough.
Yes.
Well, I did not pick this as my subject for 87, but this was going to be. And this is the movie Predator. I absolutely love this movie. I love the sequels. And in my research, looking over this movie for this podcast, I came to find out that there is a prequel coming out this year called Prey, in which I believe the first Predator comes to Earth and goes up against the Comanches, I believe. So I am very much looking forward to watching that. But this movie was great. Arnold Schwarzenegger. We got Jesse the Body Ventura. Who else do we have? Apollo Creed.
Carl Weathers.
Thank you, Carl Weathers. It's just Macho Man, tough guy. It starts out as an action film, goes into sci-fi horror. The Predator character, to me, is awesome. Just the thought that there's a hunter out there looking for, the most dangerous game in the universe, I think is cool. I love the look of it. I thought it was a great movie. I love rewatching it. I've seen this movie probably 20 times, 25 times. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That is 25 more times than I've seen it.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Nope, never seen it, so pass.
Yeah. I've seen it a few times, and like you said, the look of it is what sticks out. The imaging with the thermal view when you were seeing it from his point of view, the Predator's point of view, that's what sticks in your head about the movie. And like it does when he has the guys in his sights. That just is sort of a little bit of a terrifying kind of moment. So I don't remember much else of the movie itself, but I do remember enjoying the movie. So I have seen it a few times.
Sure.
Jesse Ventura's got a couple of the best lines, and then it's just
Yep.
This is the era of movies where they just throw out one-liners and they try to get it to stick.
I am
Yep.
aware
Ain't
of
got
Jesse
time to
Ventura
bleed.
there.
Ain't got time to bleed.
That's right. Well, and I like when I was doing the research for this, it was interesting. They talked about how they made the camouflage. So they would shoot the scene with a person in a red outfit because that was the most contrast to the jungle. And then they would basically erase him from the picture. And then they would reshoot the exact same scene with nobody in it, but with a 30% wider lens, and then they would overlap them. So that's why you would see those little lines of like the camouflage when he was invisible. You could just barely see an image of a body when it was moving. And it's just kind of interesting the way they did it. This movie was nominated for an Oscar for the visual effects. And one of the other things I found interesting when we're talking about movies from this year, Kevin Peter Hall, 7'2" actor who played the Predator, was in the Predator suit, also played Harry in Harry and the Hendersons this year.
Really?
Which is that from this year too?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
Yep.
I did not know that.
And the one of the commandos, Shane Black, who plays Hawkins, is the writer for another great movie that came out this year, and that is Lethal Weapon. So a lot of crossover this year. Hollywood's a small town. Everybody's in all the great movies of this year. So,
all right, shall we? I'll do one more here. I got several to choose from, but I'm going to throw one out that's probably the biggest one for most of this group. So this is the movie that I saw with Eric Haken, and then we went to Pizza Hut. And we were playing with quarters, like quarter hockey on the table, like where you have your fingers on the table and you try to shoot, you know. You guys know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
So I remember that. But the movie we saw for his birthday that night was Spaceballs.
Awesome.
And
So good.
Pretty sure we all loved it. I don't feel like this one holds up as well as some of these other ones. It's still funny. And I don't want to get taken apart here. But we watched it with our kids a couple years ago, and it's funny. But some of the jokes maybe don't quite hit the same way they did when I was a kid.
Right.
The way
I
you
can
were
see
moving
that.
them. But it's still funny. I'd watch it again.
Yep.
And it was huge. It was huge at the time. And for me, I had not even seen a Star Wars movie at this point.
Which is
I was
crazy.
not a Star Wars fan. But you knew everything about it. Like I knew all the characters and everything. So I could go to this movie and still get pretty much all of it. And loved it. So,
however, if Mel Brooks did a spoof on Witness, Brad would have been all in.
Here we go.
Yeah,
boy.
that one might not hold up either. John, you got anything on Spaceballs?
I think the actor's name is Michael Winslow. Is he in this movie?
Yeah,
Yes.
which is also one of my other movies
Yeah.
is Police
The
Academy.
Police Academy.
I just loved him, and he's so creative with all the sounds that he can make, and that's what I loved about this show.
Yeah.
Is he the same one who has the great line when they're combing the desert?
No.
It's not? Okay.
No,
We ain't
different guy.
found shit.
Yep. They're literally combing the desert.
That's one of my favorite moments in the whole movie.
Yes, I think everybody would point to that one as well.
And again, John Candy. I almost forget sometimes he's in it because it's such a big cast and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's great.
Barf.
Yep.
He's his own best friend.
Bartholomew.
Yeah.
Pete,
Great
I know you
film.
like Spaceballs.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. A question did come up on Twitter the other day. Which is better, Spaceballs or Naked Gun? And I had to stop and think about that one. But
I saw that, and you chose wisely, I believe.
I chose Naked Gun because I think it is a overall, I think it's actually a funnier movie, and I think it's better quality. In a lot of ways, it's better made. But
and that's another one that I
nothing wrong with
watched
Spaceballs
in the last couple of years and thought this is still just as funny. I mean, these are the kind of jokes that don't go out of style because they're just stupid. They're just funny.
Right.
Well,
right.
and a quick podcast plug here that we're not getting paid for. I just listened to a Doom Generation's take on the Naked Gun, and it was just fun listening to it because I haven't watched that movie in quite a few years. So listening to their run through of it was excellent, and you're just remembering all the great lines and the great scenes, and
Well, if you want to plug them even more, I listened to their latest episode today on the Breakfast Club, which is fantastic. So.
Yeah. Courtney came back from the cities today and was listening to that new one too. So yeah.
Back to Spaceballs. I think you covered it. I remember at that age, we were all, I think, the perfect age when it came out to love this movie and just laugh at it. And my dad was a huge Mel Brooks fan, although I don't remember him really getting into this movie. He loved Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein, two other great Mel Brooks movies. But that's how I kind of got into that type of humor for sure. And this one fit that perfectly. Mulkern.
I am.
I think you already talked about Spaceballs.
Oh, did he?
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think so.
In the interest
everybody
of
go
time,
on
shall we
Spaceballs?
just go through and state the other movies we want to mention? And if you want to throw in some comments, we can do it.
Yeah, let's do that.
Johnny, you want to rattle off a few other movies that you might have listed?
Yes. Beverly Hills Cop 2, I think, came out this year. La Bamba.
I got that one.
Yep, I got those too.
Fatal Attraction.
Nice.
You know, there was a lot of movies this year. I don't know. I miss the old time, the old years with movies that you can go to week after week after week after week.
And that everybody talks about, right? It's
And
like we said on the show before, it's like so diluted now that it's like you don't have that one movie that everybody's talking about like you did back in those days.
Yeah, you will next Friday.
Oh, that's
Top
right.
Gun.
Yep, Top Gun
right.
comes out.
Yeah, I'm not sure I agree with that either. I mean, we just had the, I don't know. There's all these Marvel movies. I mean, everybody talks about them, and
but
Spider-Man
it's
was
not like
massive. Batman.
Not like those days though.
Okay,
Well, and
good.
I think
You don't
I
have the
think
variety of movies anymore.
right, but when we were younger, that's when we were much more of a movie going crowd, and then we would get together and
That's
talk
true.
about it more. I think people are still, obviously the pandemic hurt that a little bit, but I think people that are of the movie going age still talk quite a bit about
Kate, what are the other movies you want to
Maybe
mention?
I'm the problem. So I had The Lost Boys. I had just going through The Untouchables, Raising Arizona.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Lethal Weapon, 3 Men and a Baby, Mannequin, Summer School, Roxanne, and one I put as a dishonorable mention because it was so it's terribly, it's so bad, it's funny. Jaws 4 came out in 1987.
The Revenge.
One of my other favorite podcasts is How Did It Get Made? And they made an episode about this movie, and it is hilarious. I love their take on it. So I had to mention that one.
Awesome.
GIF.
Well, you guys have nailed quite a few of them. I did give a quick mention to Harry and the Hendersons earlier. I got Inner Space on my list still. And Full Metal Jacket came out this year, and the beginning of that movie with Arlie Ermy just going off on the new recruits is just it's hilarious and frightening all at the same time. I love the beginning of that movie. The whole movie is very good, but Arlie Ermy, God rest his soul, he was awesome in that.
All right, here's a few more. When I was a kid, Police Academy was great, and Police Academy 4 was, I think, one of the good ones that I liked.
I remember it because, it was. I probably saw
I know
it on
2 and
video right
3
away.
I loved. Maybe by 4 it wasn't. I don't know, but it was big. Here's a movie that we got HBO on our farm, on our satellite, and we watched this all the time. The Witches of Eastwick with Michelle Pfeiffer and Jack Nicholson and Susan Sarandon. Have you guys seen it? And Cher.
Yep.
What a cast.
I think I've seen it once, but I wasn't.
I haven't seen it since then, but I watched it probably 10, 15 times. I loved it. Big memories there. Roxanne, you mentioned La Bamba. We watched with our cousins, and we still remember like that night because we were all together in Des Moines. Adventures in Babysitting, I don't think anybody said.
Nope, not yet.
Throw Mama from the Train.
Haven't seen it.
And oh, really?
Yep.
And then here's one that you've seen that we probably I would love to talk about too someday. Can't Buy Me Love.
Yes, Courtney would very much enjoy if we
yeah.
did that one.
You like that, Johnny?
Yes, that was actually on my list, and I can't believe I didn't bring it up. It's the number 2 movie.
So I remember the first time I saw that movie, we were at one of our friend Jenny's house from Ruthven, and I had never seen it. I don't even know if I had heard of it when it came out, but they had the VHS, so it was like a year later, and we all watched it. It was this like small party that there was, and I've seen it a million times since. And I mean, it's not the best movie, of course, but God, I love it. It's so good to watch.
Awesome.
Ronald Miller.
Yes.
Whatever.
Ronald McDonald. And I'm not a fan of Patrick Dempsey. I never have been. Something about that guy just doesn't quite work with me, but it doesn't matter. I still love that movie.
Good deal.
All right. So we're going to talk, Pete, what movie are we going to talk about this month?
We are going to talk about The Untouchables, which is one that I did mention. It's just for me, it was I was able to watch it and rewatch it and rewatch it. It's just that good. It's a great cast: Sean Connery, Kevin Costner, Robert De Niro, and
Andy Garcia.
Andy Garcia, yes, and more.
And I'm excited to watch it because I haven't seen that in 30 years either.
Such a fantastic movie. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to that episode.
Yep. The train station scene is just the best.
Yeah.
So good.
Shall we go on to chapter 3?
Yes.
Yes, please.
All right. So next is music. So I don't know if you guys did albums or songs or what.
I got mostly albums, and then I threw in a couple extra songs here.
We'll go around the horn here and say some of our favorite albums of the year, because there were many. And some are ones that, like, for me at least, there's like 2 separate categories. Ones that I loved as a kid that were right there for me then, and then ones that I still love that are like good as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't all cross over. So, for example, I'll just go first this time.
Sure.
My number 1 album of that year probably would have been Debbie Gibson, Out of the Blue, because I loved Debbie Gibson. And actually, I don't know if it'd be my number 1, but she was my number 1. I loved Debbie Gibson. I loved that album. I had the tape, and I listened to that tape over and over and over again. And I know Pete knows that, and we both shared an affinity for Debbie Gibson. So,
well, I had a birthday party, which you guys were both at.
I was there, yep.
And I got that for my birthday, and we all just were ogling over that picture of Debbie Gibson, where she's just sitting on the ground, a white background, the ripped blue jeans. Oh my God!
And I'm not sure that I could listen to that tape again today, but I sure loved it back then.
Give it a shot. Probably.
I will say, I think the song "Out of the Blue," I think I probably like that one enough. I could listen to that. So,
and then there's Electric Youth after that, but
yeah, that one I don't think holds up as well.
Wasn't as good. Okay.
All right, so that's my first one. Somebody else?
Well, my first one would be Appetite for Destruction, Guns N' Roses. The whole album.
Much different than my choice.
A little bit. But when you just think of the memories that that album brings, and the songs on that album that still hold up.
Yes.
Things like Sweet Child of Mine, Paradise City. It was a game changer, just like we talk about Nirvana being a game changer. In 91 when they came out with the Nevermind album, I think this album was a game changer.
Yeah.
And everybody had this one.
Well, Paul and I were on the way to his choir concert last Tuesday, and Welcome to the Jungle came on, so I had some hype music for him to get ready for the choir concert.
There you go.
Awesome. It's just too good. John, you got anything on Appetite for Destruction?
Other than it's amazing that they still play their music today at clubs and sports bars and in arenas and whatnot. It's amazing how it's transcended time.
Yeah.
What's one of yours?
I'm going to stay with the big hair bands, Def Leppard, Hysteria. Def Leppard's one of my...
Gifford, why does that one stand out?
We will be covering Hysteria the final week of this month. That is my pick for the month. I love that album, Johnny. Nice pick.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite bands, and this was, in my senior year, and I had several tapes of it. I listened to it so much that I had to get a backup for the first one that wore out.
Awesome. Yeah, I love this album. I can't say enough about it. Def Leppard was one of my favorite bands growing up as well, and for me, this is the album of theirs. My memory of this one was 6th grade spring dance, Russell Town Hall.
I was just going to bring that up. You got
me and Brad and Rhonda just going nuts on the dance floor to pour some sugar on me.
Yeah,
that's what I remember. Yeah, it was awesome.
So I guess that would have technically been in 1988 then.
That would have been in 88.
When I think of that album, that's particular because that was all the dances were in the middle school cafeteria, but that one was actually in like the town hall, and I don't know, it was different. It was fun.
It was, yeah.
Pyromania to me is a way better songs on it, but you couldn't. I mean, I love this too. I mean, you couldn't avoid these songs. They were amazing, and at the time I loved them. Some of them I don't like as much as I did back then, but like the song "Animal," awesome.
Love "Animal."
Probably my favorite as of now, still of the album. Although we'll find out when I re-listen to it.
Yes, we will. Sweet.
All right, Giff, how about you then?
Well, I'm going to go with Hold On from Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. Came out in 1987. So obviously the big song
what's this going to, I was just going to say, what's this going to be? Cliffhanger. We don't know what song by Nitty Gritty Dirt Band he's going to bring up here. Anyway,
the big song, Baby's Got a Hold on Me. No, which is a great song.
That is a good song.
Fishing in the Dark. So for me, back when I was 11, I was neither a fisherman or allowed to go out after dark with my friends, but this song sprung something in me and opened a new world to me, and I love this song, still love this song, and the album is great as well. So,
well, if you grew up in a small town, whether you liked it or hated it, this song was basically written for sing-alongs with a bunch of people who probably have been drinking, and that's what it's made for. That and then
a bunch of people at the high school dances that have been drinking. Yes,
this is the precursor to Garth Brooks.
Yep.
Going back to one of my influences, the Showboat Ballroom, this song in particular sticks in my mind from bands that would play it late in the night, way loud, and everyone's out there in the choir.
Yep.
I bet.
Awesome.
Shout out to Johnny Holm, right?
That is correct. That is the band I was thinking of too.
Been on stage a time or two with Johnny singing up there, so that was always fun. If you get up on stage during a concert. Then the bras would just start, getting whipped at you. It was awesome. It was great.
I can't say that's happened to me before. Sorry.
No. That happened to you on the way
Not
back
even
to
at
the
a
locker room
game?
after another win on the RTR court.
I cannot deny.
Yeah.
All right. The next one I'm going to throw out. This was the other album, so better musically. I would say one of the best bands of the 80s into the 90s, and one of the most underappreciated bands that people should still love. In Excess, Kick.
Yep.
This would be my backup album to discuss to the one that I did pick that we'll get to. But holy crap, this was just huge, and every song was huge. And Devil Inside, New Sensation, Never Tear Us Apart. What's the one I'm forgetting? It's Need You Tonight. Holy crap. Michael Hutchence was awesome. I love this band so much. And this is like so they had stuff out before this, but this is when I first and of course discovered them.
Yep.
And into the 90s, I always felt there was 3 worldwide huge bands. And, most people would agree at the time that REM and U2 were those 2. But I at that time, I put INXS in that same category, at least for me. They were so awesome. So Kick is one of my faves.
Very good. I had it written down as well. This is a phenomenal album. So many great songs on it. Actually, when I was listening to it just the other night in preparation for this, I added quite a few songs off of this album to my one of my playlists. So
really,
I can continue to listen to them as I go through life. So they are great.
Nice. Anybody else like that one?
Yeah, I had that one written down.
Okay.
Yep.
Johnny?
Comments.
You a fan?
Yes, I was, but it's not not
No.
one of the top tens of the year, if you will.
Okay. All right. Next, who was next? Was it Pete or
I think-
Johnny?
I've only got one more album. I've got more singles and songs, but I'll throw out Michael Jackson Bad. And
Oh,
I think
yeah.
I think
Oh yeah.
that
Sure.
it was a follow up to Thriller, and it was much anticipated at the time because
Sure
it
was.
had 3 or 4 years, and it came out with quite a few huge hits, if you will.
And the videos, I remember like they would premiere, like the Bad video premiered on TV, and like, you know, everybody would watch that. That was a huge deal.
Yep.
All right.
Pete, you like that one?
Am I up? Yeah.
Or do you have anything to say about Michael Jackson?
No, I don't have anything to add about Michael Jackson. I wasn't a huge Michael Jackson fan. That probably wouldn't be the Michael Jackson album that I would pick. Of all of his albums, that's probably a little lower on the list. I think some of his other music off of Thriller and also like Smooth Criminal, and some of the other ones. But Michael Jackson
Isn't Smooth Criminal on this one?
Yes,
Is it really?
Yes, okay,
Oh,
there we go.
sorry. I thought it was actually on a different album. Sorry.
It's
I-
also on
it's
an
fun.
Alien Ant Farm album, I believe.
This
All
is
right.
one where I never owned it, and I don't remember like specifically what was all on it. But when you look at the list of singles from this album, it's pretty incredible.
It's pretty
Really?
impressive. Yeah.
Yep.
Maybe I'll have to go back, and I just haven't. All right.
Yeah. It's very good.
I'll give it a shot then.
Excellent.
Well, that is
pick.
if you still support Michael Jackson. So
It's fine. You can listen to his music and enjoy it, and I've got no problem.
Sure.
It's fine.
all right, what was your next one?
My next one?
Yeah.
I had Aerosmith, the
Yeah.
Permanent Vacation album.
Permanent
there's-
Vacation.
There's a lot of,
I don't have that down.
Aerosmith is another timeless, great band that's still going and had a lot of great hits. This one had a couple of them on there. Ragdoll was on it, and Dude Looks Like a Lady.
Yep.
Well, speaking
Angel.
of sixth grade and my girlfriend, Angel was our
Angel was
song.
the other
You
one,
mean
yes.
sixth grade and My Girlfriend? That was our song too.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yes, sir. Awesome album, Pete. Yes, that's actually the one I was going to bring up next. But you beat me to the
Aerosmith.
punch.
Aerosmith is a really great band that we don't talk about very much, but I love a lot of their music, and so I had to put this one on there.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, he stole mine, so I'm going to go with the self-titled White Snake album that came out in 1987. So they re-released Here I Go Again. You got Still of the Night. Is This Love was on this album. So that was a pretty big album in that year for me as well. So I enjoyed that one.
And knowing you were probably a fan of Tawny Katane.
Yes, sir. Yes, that video in particular. Also from what was it? America's Funniest Videos, I think, was on after America's Funniest Home Videos. She was a co-host for a while on that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, those are pretty good songs. I was never a giant Whitesnake fan, but I mean, you couldn't avoid those songs.
No, you couldn't avoid them.
And they were great. I mean, having MTV, they were huge on MTV.
Mm-hmm.
That was what I was going to add. It was the videos for me.
Yeah.
Yep.
They were such a big. They played all the time on MTV.
Mm-hmm. All right. So that's two apiece. Do we want to do another one or just do list like we did with the movies?
I think we can just round out
Just
the
do
list
lists,
now. At
yeah.
this
All right.
point.
So here's the other big one that I didn't get to that I think was pretty huge for everybody at the time was George Michael, Faith.
Yes.
Anybody agree with that? I mean, that was God.
I-
That's
Oh,
a good
yeah.
album.
I still have that CD that I bought from you.
Oh,
And
really?
I love
I
that
sold
album.
you the CD.
Oh yeah, you sold me a bunch of them.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
you were just done with them, and I went through a bunch. I was like, I'll take these from you.
Well,
so
that was
you
a
sold
great
me
album.
bunch. Yeah.
The next one, I'm not going to say much about because we're going to go into it next week in detail, is my favorite album of all time, U2, The Joshua Tree. So we will talk much more about that next week. Johnny, you mentioned Dirty Dancing. I had that soundtrack and loved it. And did you also have the more Dirty Dancing?
I did
Because there
not.
was another one, and I think I actually listened to that one more. You did, Giff?
Yep, we got it.
And then one other one from the time that was big is Prince, Sign of the Times, with You Got the Look, Sign of the Times, I Could Never Take the Place of Your Man. That's a great album. And then there's two others that would be bands that I didn't really know till later. But my favorite band of all time is REM, and Document came out that year with The One I Love and It's the End of the World. And then local favorites, The Replacements, had Pleased to Meet Me album come out that year as well. Paul Westerberg.
Excellent.
So those are my other ones. I think we're back to Johnny.
I don't have any other albums. There are a couple songs I would like to bring up, though.
Oh, that's fine.
Yes.
And I
please
have
do.
no idea what album it was off of, but Never Gonna Give You Up was the first time I got Rick.
There we go.
I think that was a 1987 release.
Mm-hmm.
Could not begin to tell you what album it's off of.
No. You got any others?
Sure. Lady in Red by Krista Berg.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Okay.
it's kind of a poppy song, but Died in Your Arms Tonight by Cutting Crew, I think it was.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. That's a great one.
Yeah. I as you can tell, I probably listened to a little of 99.7 KKCK of it.
KKCK.
Absolutely. Yeah, right there with
So
you.
if it was on their playlist, I probably recorded it onto a cassette tape.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about them before, actually. They really did have, considering the small town, a pretty broad playlist, at least at times. There's a lot of things that I can't believe I heard on that station that, looking back, shocked me. So I gotta give them credit. They did a great job. Any other songs?
No, that's enough for now.
Okay.
All right.
I'm enjoying the songs that you're the music that you're bringing up.
No, we've covered everything already that I had written down. I had a couple of other ones, but then I just double checked, and they're from different years, so I can't bring those up in this episode.
All right.
So there you go.
Oh, actually, I missed one other band that I didn't know till later, but I'm a big fan of 10,000 Maniacs, and they had In My Tribe, which had the song Like the Weather on it, which
I came across that too, but I didn't know them until
Right.
the 90s, right? So that's when they really became big. But I did see that.
So I had like three different things here. You had the stuff I loved then, the stuff that I loved and still love, and then the stuff that I discovered later. So,
Sure.
GIF.
Well, I've got one other album. George Strait's Oceanfront Property was released this year, which of course had
song.
Oceanfront Property. Also, All My Exes Live in Texas on that album, which was awesome. And then a few songs I just wrote down. We've got Wait by White Lion came out that year. Girls, Girls, Girls from Cinderella.
You mean Motley Crue?
Motley Crue.
I mean, Motley Crue. Sorry. Jeez, what the heck am I thinking? Sorry.
I bet Cinderella had one too.
Yes. I had Rock Me from Great White. And also this year, Wipeout with the Fat Boys featuring the Beach Boys came out in 1987.
That song is that old? My
Yeah.
God.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
The Fat Boys.
Yes, sir.
Well, as long as you brought up the Fat Boys, I'm going to bring up Pump Up the Volume by Mars. Anyone remember?
Oh, yeah.
That was 87 too? Love that song. Great call, Johnny. Sweet. Well, is that going to wrap up our music discussion?
Chapter
think it
3
does.
in the books.
Yeah.
All right, if everybody had what they wanted to say. All right, this was a huge time in TV then. I mean, this is when you have networks and people actually paid attention to what was on at night, and you had to watch it at that time. Unless you had, some people did have VCRs, like we were starting to record things, but that's pretty early here. So the way we had talked about doing this is just going through the nights of the week. And if hopefully you have some TV shows you remember. So if we start with Sunday night, I'll throw out a couple shows.
Okay.
So Family Ties, which was on Thursday at times in the year, but now is transitioning to Sunday nights. But then the other show that I remember the most that I loved at the time was My Two Dads.
Okay.
With Paul Reiser and Greg Evigan. These are shows Gifford wouldn't see because these were all on NBC.
That is correct.
There are two that I think that you don't have that are Sunday night in the Sunday night lineup for me. If you don't mind, I'll throw them out there.
Take it away.
I believe, and if I remember correctly, now I didn't research the actual nights like you did, but if I remember correctly, and this was the debut year of Married with Children that was in my repertoire. I think that was on Sunday nights.
Yes.
You might be right. Well, and actually,
That's
I think
huge.
yeah, was Fox even on in weeknights yet at that time, or did they only even have like weekend shows? Maybe they had like a weird thing because they were brand new.
No, see, in 1980, yeah, I'm looking at it right here in 87, 88. When you got Sunday, and then you've got Saturday for Fox. If you look up like Friday, it's just the three networks.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, but
Oh,
Married with
interesting.
Children did come out. Yep.
Yeah.
Fall.
And I think that was a Sunday night
Yes.
show.
Yep.
And also I had Simpsons, but I don't remember because
That didn't start
back
until
then
1989.
it appeared though first on the Tracy Ullman show, and that's when the Simpsons actually debuted on that show. And so I don't know if it was on Sunday nights back when it first came out anyway, but I did have to bring that up.
Pete, you liked My Two Dads, right?
Yeah, I loved My Two Dads. I'd forgot it's one of those shows that I'd forgotten about, but I absolutely loved My Two Dads.
And I mean, well, they weren't like together, but still kind of ahead of its time, I guess, when you think back to two dads sharing a daughter. And I mean, that was a little different.
Right. Like you said, they were not, it wasn't that they were gay. It was just that it was a situation. I don't remember the situation that brought them all together like that. They were just friends or something, and how that worked out. Anyway, go on.
Johnny, do you have any Sunday night shows?
I don't. I'll be very honest with you. I don't remember what night a lot of shows were on, other than Thursday night. I do remember.
We can help you with that if you got some shows to bring up when we get through here.
I love Family Ties for sure. My Two Dads, I'm not that familiar with.
Okay. Yeah, Family Ties was the big one, and it's it's kind of amazing that Michael J. Fox still was on that show all the way through 1989 because I mean he's in so many movies by this time, and people would never do that anymore. They would leave, and he juggled it. It's pretty cool.
Yep.
And who couldn't love Meredith Baxter?
Yeah. Yeah, when we talked about Family Ties in 1985, and when we went back and watched those, I really enjoyed the parents more than I did back when I was a kid.
Because you've seen it through a different lens.
Exactly. And they were wonderful.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
All right, Monday was a big night for me.
I don't get to talk about Sunday.
Oh, sorry.
Actually, I don't have a whole lot on Sunday. I saw in the fall Spencer for Hire debuted, and I watched a little bit of that. Robert Ulrich was the star of that. But otherwise on ABC, they just had like the Sunday evening movie. On CBS, Murder, She Wrote was on at 7. Murder, She Wrote was on, and also Designing Women was also on Sundays. I believe it started.
Interesting.
No, it started in 86, but it was on Sundays like mid-season after whatever Murder, She Wrote, I believe. Yeah. So anyway, those were the two for Sunday for me.
All right. Sorry, Giff. Now
That's
we're
all right.
on to Monday.
Yep.
So Monday, for me anyway, was a big night of TV. Lots of shows that we watched. The biggest one, and I think someday we may talk about it, I think Pete and me both want to do, is Newhart.
Yep. Had Newhart on my list.
Newhart was fantastic. And that was a show that, like, 11 years old, we could watch that with our parents and still enjoy it. The jokes kind of reached, even though it was a bunch of adults and different kind of humor, we still could find it funny. Well, of course, we all loved Larry, Daryl, and Daryl.
Yep. The problem is that we can't do Newhart because we cannot find it streaming anywhere.
Right. Well, maybe by the time we want to talk about it, it'll be available.
Right.
All right. So Netflix, if you're listening.
Yeah. Get some people back and put Newhart
on it. Yeah.
Yep.
How about this show? Alf.
Yes. I have that on my list.
I did not.
That one you like, Johnny?
It's the number one movie or TV show I have listed for this year.
Nice.
Awesome.
It's just simple pleasure and kick back and watch 30 minutes of TV and laugh my butt off.
Yep. And you've got Seinfeld's mom on the show.
Yeah.
Before she played his mom. And then do we all agree that Willie the dad is the worst actor in the history of TV?
I believe you're referring to Max Wright. I think is his name.
Oh, I mean,
He was in a few episodes of Friends, also. He ran the Central Perk like before Gunther, or he was in a few episodes where
I don't remember that.
he actually hired Rachel as the waitress, and they had some problems there. But
I just always thought it was so odd the way he acted on that show that even as a kid, it just felt like, what's going on here? Why is this guy so bad?
well, he was like a nerdy scientist guy. That's the basis of the show.
That's how they tried to sell it, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I got a couple others. Anybody else got a Monday night show though?
MacGyver was on Monday nights, so I watched MacGyver, and then also in the spring, Designing Women was on Monday nights.
And that might have been in conjunction with one of my other shows, Kate and Allie, which I loved.
Yeah, I never really watched Kate and Allie.
I used to watch that one all the time.
Yeah, that's really good.
I've totally forgotten about it, and then I didn't come across it, and I didn't think about it. But yeah, that was one of my favorite shows.
Another show that I watched that had a short run and a sad ending was My Sister Sam.
Oh, yes.
The girl was like shot in her front door by a crazy fan. Remember that?
Somebody rang the door. Yeah, he rang the doorbell. She opened the door, and he just shot her right there.
Yeah.
That's how I recall the story, and that's how she died.
Huh. And then my other show from Monday night was Valerie's Family with Jason Bateman.
Oh.
And it went through, and that show became Valerie and then the Hogan Family. And it ran for years, and the main character, Valerie, left right away, but the show went on. And Jason Bateman was like kind of as a kid, the star.
Okay. Did not see it.
Did not see. Well, that would have been an NBC show.
Right.
Anybody else think they have a Monday night show?
Nope.
All right, Tuesdays. This is around the time when Who's the Boss and Growing Pains. Growing Pains started. I think Who's the Boss had been on for a year or two by this time. So those are the two I'll throw out there.
Those are the two I have marked down for Tuesday night.
I had Growing Pains on my list. I did not have Who's the Boss because I did enjoy Who's the Boss now that I think back, but I thought Growing Pains was the better of the shows.
Alyssa Milano was my first celebrity crush, so Who's the Boss is high on my list. Yeah.
Yeah. Not Mona, though?
No, I didn't have a thing for Mona.
Okay.
No. Or Angela.
Definitely not Angela.
No, a little too high strung.
I must have had basketball practice on Tuesday nights because I can't contribute to those social media.
Oh, really? Okay.
Well, Johnny, when we did 94 for our senior year, when I was going through television, like I was looking up the shows. Again, it's easy for me because all I got to do is look at ABC and CBS. I didn't really watch TV my senior year like much when I was in high school because you're always busy. You're out, you do practice, and then you come home. We're on the farm, so you do chores, and then you come in and do some homework and go to bed. Like I really didn't watch a whole lot of TV because you're out a lot. So that's what I found anyway when I was doing 94.
Very good point.
Yeah.
Wednesday is not a great night either, at least unless somebody found something else. But Head of the Class was on that night.
Yep.
And then Night Court was shuffled around from Thursday back to Wednesday. So Night Court I threw on Wednesday. So I love Night Court. Head of the Class wasn't a show I loved, but it's a show I watched. Sometimes.
I also watched Head of the Class, and for those who don't know, the actor who played Eric on Head of the Class, Brian Robbins, was the director of Varsity Blues, which we spoke on last week.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I can't believe you're cutting out Belky Bartakamus from Perfect Strangers out of your Wednesday night viewing.
Yeah, I never liked that show.
And really, I love Perfect Strangers.
I loved it. That was my favorite show for a while there.
Yeah. And then Magnum PI was also on Wednesdays.
Ah.
So. I actually just realized I didn't have mine by day, but there was a Tuesday night one that I had forgotten to mention. Moonlighting, if I remember correctly, was on Tuesdays.
I think you're right. That sounds correct. And I never really got into Moonlighting. That just wasn't.
I did.
Yep.
I enjoyed Bruce Willis. I thought it was a funny show. It was more of a grown-up humor, but for some reason I enjoyed it. I got it. I remember my dad, though, he would always say how much he just absolutely hated that show, and he hated Bruce Willis, and he has hated Bruce Willis ever since.
Oh, really?
I
Has
don't
he
know
seen
why.
Die Hard?
I don't
Yes,
know.
come
I don't think
on.
that he's seen Die Hard. I think he just refuses to watch it because he's always hated Bruce Willis, could not stand the guy. I never understood why.
What a strange thing to hate.
Yeah.
Oh, kidding.
Johnny,
Yeah,
did you watch any of these shows?
I did. Magnum PI was one of my favorites as well, and I think part of it was just the being brought, or the Hawaii portion of it. You know, it was a long ways from where we grew up, and I think I was just fascinated with the scenery and the warm weather and the beaches and some of the scantily clad individuals.
Yes.
Just the intro on that show that got
Oh,
you
the
in, and it was just
song
so
was
awesome.
so good.
The helicopter,
Yeah. The
and-
helicopter flying. Yeah, it was so good. Totally agree with you, Pete.
All right, that brings us to the big night of the week, which if you want to go back, we did a 1985 episode on the NBC Thursday night lineup.
Can I go first, and then you can dive into the
Oh.
Thursday? Because the only
So
thing
I was just
have
gonna
for-
say though, we did a whole episode on the Cosby Show,
Mhm.
Family Ties, Night Court, and Cheers. So we'll
Yep.
talk a little bit about them, but we've got a whole episode devoted to those 4 shows.
So
Yes.
the only one I have for Thursday is Simon and Simon, and then you guys can get into the Thursday night, awesome Thursday night lineup on NBC.
Well, I named them all. The only other one though is in the fall season of '87. That was when Family Ties went to Sunday, and then A Different World started
Okay.
with Denise, Lisa
Yes.
Bonet, and Kadeem Hardison, Dwayne Wayne.
Okay. Oh, I did see on here fall of '87 Tour of Duty debuted. So I did watch that show.
Wow, that's digging deep. I vaguely remember that show. I don't think I ever watched it. I remember it being around.
See, if you can tell too by these lists, I watched sitcoms, and you watched more of the action half or hour long shows.
I watched what was available on 2 channels.
Well, I know, but
That's why Brad and I are always so much funnier than you, Gifford.
Yes. You know me, I'm very serious.
well, and
Very
also I was
serious.
11 years old at this time, so like an hour long, like more serious show.
Yeah.
And I didn't get into anything action really until I saw Die Hard, and then that's when
Yep.
that was like, okay, I'm into this stuff now.
That would do it.
Johnny, do you have a favorite Thursday night show?
Well, Cosby Show was my favorite, and
Yeah.
forgive me for that, but
Well, at the
No, no.
time,
No,
that
that's
was a
fine.
Great,
Nothing
great
wrong
show.
with that.
I think 1987 was when Kirstie Alley debuted on Cheers.
Yes. Yep.
That was
Oh, it was okay.
that was
Great
a big
point.
change.
Yeah, Diane left. I think at the end of the previous season. So
Yep, that was my memory from '87 and Cheers.
okay. Anybody else have Thursday?
You've hit
Nope.
on everything I had written down.
All right, moving along. Friday was a pretty big night too.
Mhm.
This is the year, and I'm not a big fan of Full House, but Full House started that year.
Fall of
Um,
'87. Yep.
Mhm.
My parents watched Dallas, and we've talked about Dallas a little bit on here, how big that was in our homes.
Mm-hmm.
But the 2 shows I did watch were I watched Webster, and then like my favorite show at the time as an 11-year-old, Mr. Belvedere.
That's the
Oh,
other one I got.
yes,
Webster and
yes.
Mr. Belvedere. Yes, sir.
So
Bob
Friday
Baker,
night, and see,
baby.
as a kid, you're home on Friday night, so you could watch
Yep.
those shows because it's not a big night for TV. But when you're 11 and on a farm, you're
Yep.
going to watch TV. So
And you're not
yeah.
heading into town to watch Johnny tear it up on the ball court. So
Yep.
we had time to.
Well, and in
watch the
fact, I think
TV.
when we did, we recorded Mr. Belvedere on the old VCR tapes. So.
Yes, I loved Mr. Belvedere. I can't say enough
Yep.
great things about Euchre. He's just the best.
That's kind of an underrated show too, in the sense that why could that show not be in syndication like some of the other? I don't remember that one really being, once it got done, once it was done, it was just that was it.
It was
over,
on
and
for
nobody ever talked
surprisingly
about it.
Large number of years too.
Yeah,
like
it
more
was
than
a
you
great
probably
show.
remember. I don't know about great, but
It was
good.
fun.
well, yeah. I mean, like
Yeah.
as a kid, yeah. Did you watch
Yeah.
Mr. Belvedere, Johnny?
No, but I did watch Webster on a regular. I was fascinated by
yes,
Emmanuel.
yes.
Was Emmanuel Lewis?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was much different than I was, if
Well-
we can put it mildly.
And Webster, that's the one that had Alex Karras, didn't it?
It did.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Former NFL.
That was just
And
a fun
Mongo,
show.
right? Wasn't he Mongo?
He was Mongo in Blazing Saddles.
Blazing Saddles. Yep.
And then we have Saturday. We're almost done, and the only show I have down here is Golden Girls, but I love the Golden Girls. Watch with my grandparents whenever I was around them on Saturday nights.
I didn't remember that being on Saturdays. Was it on Saturdays the whole time?
It was always on Saturday night.
Really?
I don't think it ever switched from
I
a
just
different
don't.
night.
I just don't remember what night it was on at all. So, all right.
Well,
I had
and
it
I
written down. I just didn't have the.
I
night.
love those ladies.
I didn't have anything for
Don't we all?
Saturday night, and I'm assuming Johnny was at the showboat. So
It's a little known fact. I was at the showboat.
and there were no TVs on at the showboat.
There were not.
All right. Anybody else remember anything about TV from 1987?
No,
I
I
think we-
exhausted my list.
I've got
All
two,
right.
I've got two shows written down.
Oh,
Okay.
good.
A-Team. I don't know. I think it was towards the
Oh
end,
yeah.
but I loved A-Team when Mr. T and Silver Spoons with Ricky Schroeder.
Oh, yeah. Was that still on?
Is that
I
87?
think it was the last season of it because I
Okay.
remember
Okay.
Okay.
I definitely like Silver Spoons.
Um,
Another one that none of you guys brought up that surprises me, maybe, because I think it must have been on still, right? Miami Vice.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't get that channel.
I gotta think so.
Well, I know you wouldn't, but I would think that'd be a big show for Pete or Johnny.
I wasn't a huge Miami Vice guy.
Oh, all right then.
Yeah. We watched A-Team a lot in college because it was in syndication, like right around 4:00 when everyone was done with their classes and we were just kind of hanging out in the dorms or our apartments. We always had that on at that
I
time.
remember you being a big fan of the A-Team.
For a while, yes, we all were in college.
Cool.
All right.
Okay. That brings us to chapter 5, one that I think everybody here can contribute plenty of memories to.
Yes.
Sports.
Yes.
Again, we don't talk about sports as much, but when we do, they people listen. We get some good response to those. So we kind of already talked about RTR basketball because really the big stuff didn't even happen until 1988. So anything
Other than the gelling of the team that could make it happen in the
Right.
second half of the year in '88 there.
So, but we had some pretty big.
good memories from this year.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
No, I said the basketball was good memories from 1987.
Oh yes.
Yes. That's good.
Yep.
All right.
Well, and we didn't even have school sponsored sports yet in 6th grade, so we didn't start
True.
until 7th grade. So
That's true.
We weren't
we had
even
summer rec.
Yeah, that was about it.
Well, I'm sure we can talk a lot about the Vikings and the Twins, but I'm going to throw out one other memory of mine.
Okay.
I attended my first Gopher football game this year because my brother was a freshman, and it was against Michigan, and and they lost, but it was a good game, and it's a game where Darrell Thompson ran for the Big Ten record 98-yard touchdown run, and I got to see that in person, so
Awesome.
that was pretty awesome.
Well, and they did beat Wisconsin this year, 22-19. Finished with a 6-5 record, but that would have been the signature win on the season. It was against Wisconsin.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So-
they did not make a bowl game that year.
No.
Not everybody that finished 6-5 made a bowl game back then.
No. Well, there weren't a million of them back then.
Right.
So
All right. Well, the Twins won the World Series, so I'll throw out the Vikings first because they had a pretty great year, though.
yes, they did.
So here's
Amazing.
just a quick overview. They were going to be pretty good, but they hadn't made the playoffs the previous few years, and they started out okay. But then this was the year of the NFL strike,
Striking scabs. Yep.
and instead of just canceling games, they put in scab players, and we had one of the worst teams in the league, and they lost 3 games. And so the team only went 8-7.
Yep.
But the real team went 8-4. And one of the highlights of the season was they beat Dallas in overtime on Thanksgiving Day. And that was just a classic, awesome game. But they lost 3 of their last 4 games after that. And so everybody said they backed into the playoffs because they needed the Cardinals to lose on the last day to make the playoffs, and they did. But they made it.
And
I
then
think
they
we
went
all
on a
remember
tear.
what happened when they went to the playoffs.
Right. Well, and I didn't realize this, but when they beat the Saints, that was the Saints' first ever playoff game.
Oh yeah, that was a big deal.
I did not know that.
And we just put them back. Sad day for the Saints fans.
44-10. Put the bags back on your heads and put the aints on there and go home. Yeah, that was a big one. And then the San Fran game, equally as exciting. 36-24. Each team had an interception return for a touchdown.
Anthony Carter had like 227 yards receiving, and it was one of the greatest games by a receiver in playoff history.
Mm-hmm.
And the 49ers benched Joe Montana in that game. That's how ugly.
I remember
game.
that.
Yeah, Steve Young did well in that game.
Steve Young.
Yep.
And those were the two best teams in the league, the Saints and the 49ers. They had the two best records, and we just destroyed them on the road. And then all we had to do is win one more game, and we're going to be Super Bowl champions because the NFC never lost a Super Bowl at that time.
Oh, we probably would have.
Yeah, we would have figured
We
out.
would have been the one team to lose if they did make it. But, of course, you come one play away.
Yep.
Anyway, Brad, I'll let you speak to it.
Darren Nelson dropped a pass that would have tied the game. They wouldn't have won. Everybody talks like that would have won the game. It would have tied the game.
Yeah.
And they still would have had to win in overtime. But, I mean, it would have been nice to get there at least.
All right.
And to have it not, it's just the curse of the Vikings.
Curse of Minnesota sports teams.
We talked about the Vikings, and we talked about the teams that had the best chance to win the World Series. And even though this may not be the team considered the best of all the great of the this may not be the team considered the best of all the NFC Championship losers. I think this was the team that would have won the Super Bowl for sure.
Yeah, I think they
because of the opponent and the time. There's no way they would have lost to the Broncos.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. One other thing before we get to the Twins, Gophers basketball. This was Clem's first season.
Yeah, and they were terrible.
Yep. Coming
off scandal.
But they and then we ended with scandal as well with this particular coach.
Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah.
Not that year.
But anyway, I just wanted to bring that up. That was his first season.
But yeah, it was the beginning of something pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Cheated our way to being a pretty damn good team.
That's how to do it.
That is how to do it. Exactly.
Anybody remember any other games from the Vikings season or any memories?
A couple memories I have is I think Jerry Burns was the coach at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
He was one of the most entertaining quotes ever.
Was that in this year? Was it?
No, the tirade was in '89. But
okay, go on.
Classic stuff that he would come out of his mouth.
Mm-hmm. Good old Uncle Jerry.
Another memory is, this is a good transition to the Twins, is that the Vikings were scheduled to have a Sunday home football game. And because of Game 7 of the World Series, they moved it to Monday night.
Oh,
So the Metrodome hosted Game 7 of the World Series and Monday Night Football in back-to-back nights.
I remember
against
that.
the Bengals.
No, it was actually against the Broncos.
Yes.
Oh,
and we
against
beat
the
them.
Broncos. Okay.
Sure.
And so there were two Monday Night Football games, and one was broadcast to the entire country, and the other one was broadcast to Denver and Minneapolis.
Yep.
Well, that's I didn't realize that. That's pretty cool.
Metrodome had many conflicts through the years.
Mm-hmm. So can we dive into this little engine that could called the '87 Twins?
We can.
Sure.
We could do a whole
we
episode
talked about
on
the
it,
'91 Twins, but this was the one that won our hearts first.
Yes. Well,
what a great cast of characters.
This was Kelly's first full season as
Age
the manager.
36, which we're all 10 years older or more than he was at that time, and it's just crazy to think about when you look at Tom Kelly. You think that he was just so old.
He always looked like he was 60 years old or on the brink of death.
Exactly.
This was also the year we traded for Gardenhire. Gardenhire came into the program at this point and didn't leave for how many years after that?
What do you mean traded for him?
We traded for him. We brought him in as a player.
Really?
And
he was a third base coach.
I remember he was a third baseman for the Mets for a while.
Well, no, I thought I saw a thing that they traded for him to bring him in.
Maybe, and then he just maybe never. I don't remember him as a player at all.
And we got him from the Mets.
Huh.
Where did I see that?
I know nothing about this.
Maybe he got hurt or something and just stayed with us. I don't know.
I'll find it here.
Anyway, go on. But yeah, I just remember this was, again, the first really good team, first championship drive in our lifetimes, and they just throttled the Detroit Tigers in 5 games, and then they went on, had home field advantage in the World Series. They had a grand slam in Game 1 from Dan Gladden, who was a very unlikely person to do it, and they had a couple more home runs, and they were known for being a home team. And then they went on the road, lost all 3 games. You thought, well, this is it. The Cardinals are a much better baseball team. We're not going to be able to do it. But then Game 6, which, Brad, you talked about, just a fun game, the last day game in World Series history, the grand slam, the Don Baylor home run, and then just a wonderful game in Game 7, a good little pitcher's duel where we won 4-2. And I just remember jumping around my house that night, hugging my parents, and we had some other friends over, just the celebration. I think I was more excited actually after that win than I was after 91, because it was the first time. I was younger, and it was the first time I'd ever seen anything like it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well said. Just to clarify on Ron Gardenhire, November 12th, 86, Twins traded a player to be named later to the New York Mets for Ron Gardenhire. And he spent 28 years with the organization.
Has that player ever been named?
Yes. The player was
still not
Dominic.
yet.
Oh boy, how do I even say this? Dominic Ispario. He was a minors player.
Multiple All-Star.
Yeah.
Oh, didn't you hear? We just sent over Byron Buxton as the player to be named later.
Yeah.
Finally completing the trade.
Finally completed that trade. But we also traded for Reardon on February 3rd, signed Ron Berenguer on January 9th in the, this is all off season, bringing people in, traded for Newman. We also
and the great thing about this team is, first of all, you had great nicknames. You See Nor Smoke.
Mm-hmm.
You got The Rat. You got Sweet Music.
Mm-hmm.
But these were the guys, like in 91, it was a little more of a mix. This team came up together, most of them. Viola, Gagne, Bernansky, Herbeck, Gaetti,
Lombardozzi.
Puckett a couple years later.
Laudner.
Yep.
Yeah, Laudner. And so they had been through so much losing, but this was a team that, if you were a Twins fan, you had watched for years, and all of a sudden, like, they're good. And it was really exciting because, like, it wasn't like a big free agency thing like people would do now. They actually went through all the lumps and were able to get this big payoff.
Well, they did trade for Gladden on March 31st.
Well, yeah, they did add guys. They also brought back, late in 86, they brought back Burt Blyleven, which was a huge deal for this year. So
Yep. Yeah, so they brought in some of these guys are pretty big. Reardon obviously is your
Reardon was the one kind of big one, like a big name type of guy.
Yep. But yeah, it was outstanding. As long as they played in the dome, they had a .358 win percentage on the road that year, and they were just dreadful.
That's ridiculous.
And everybody remembers the World Series. They won all the home games, lost all the road games, but against Detroit, the best team in baseball, they dominated them in Detroit and won the series in Detroit. And so it's not like they only got there because of home games. They earn it.
They were like 4-8 that year against Detroit. Like, Detroit kind of had their number.
Detroit was awesome.
Yeah. And then they went to Detroit and just mopped them up. It was unbelievable.
And so speaking of home, I remember, one of the things I did in middle school, we had to make like brochures and stuff. And so I did this thing on the Twins season. But like the stretch that stands out is they had first place, and they had a 13 game road trip to the West Coast, and they went 4-9 and just looked dreadful. That was also the same road trip. Here's a memory where Joe Niekro had the Emery board in his pocket.
Yep.
But then they came home and had an 11-game homestand right away, and they swept the A's, who were the closest team, and they just went off and just started hitting home runs, and they turned the season back around right there, and then cruised from then on.
Well, and I saw a stat that in there was a game or a series in Milwaukee where Puckett went 11, 10
Well, this
for
is the year
11.
he went 4 for
yeah.
5 with 2 home runs one night, and the next day he went 6 for 6,
Mhm.
2 home runs, 2 doubles, and stole a grand slam from Robin Yount also in that game.
So good.
This just in, he was pretty good.
Mhm.
He was.
Yeah. Well,
What-
and
what-
the number of home run hitters they had on that team, the guys that hit 30 home runs that year.
Right, which
You
we
know, I
never
think-
really had again.
Right. I think there was 3 or 4 guys that got to 30.
Yeah, and then Puckett had 28.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just amazing.
What did we miss, Johnny? What do you remember of the 87 Twins?
My biggest memory of the Twins is the celebration afterwards.
Oh, yes.
I'm
Yes, of
mean,
course.
at the
Way to bring that up.
streets.
Starting with Herbeck.
Yes, the celebration, and it poured over into the streets, and then the parade and everything that went along with all of that. And we've yet, had one parade since then.
I think we watched that parade in school that day, too.
Yeah.
Oh, we probably did.
I thought you were talking, though, actually about after the ALCS when they came back and middle of the night and the dome was packed with 56,000 people just to hang out and congratulate them on making the World Series. That was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
So that and the parade are like,
To say
What
that craved a winner is an understatement.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then, I mean, to think that they did it 4 years later, and, as a young kid back then, you thought, well, this is just the way things work. I mean,
We're going to get championships every
Yeah.
now and then.
yeah,
Well-
they're not going to be every 4 years, but, we'll get something. And then
It's just like RTR. First year, we go to the state championship. Oh, well, we'll be back next year. And we were.
and we were. Yep.
But God, we didn't win it. But
Yep.
but it's like, we'll get it. Well, these guys are going to win it. But
Yep.
I mean, everybody was a winner at the time. And Minnesota's been losers for 30 years. But
Yeah.
between 87 and like 91,
As have we.
high school and the Vikings were always good. They didn't
Yeah.
win, but they were good. So
Yep.
it's a great time.
Yes,
It certainly was. It was a great year. And we will continue to talk about it for the entire month with, what would we say? Joshua Tree, Untouchables, and Hysteria.
Yes,
Yeah.
and we'll go through our personal top 5s and everything as well. So we'll get back
Yep.
into some of these titles
Yep.
a little bit
Looking forward
again.
to it.
Mulkern, I know you're a big fan of the show, so I'm going to quiz you. How do we close every show?
Oh, this I do know. Preacher Row, I believe.
There you go.
Hey.
You did it. Yes.
A true fan. I think we should all give a big thank you to Johnny for joining
Yes.
us. It was wonderful
Yes. Applause to Johnny.
and
It-
very
thank you.
excited
Thank
that
you very much.
were
It
able
truly
to
was
join
my
us.
pleasure. Thank you guys very much.
Awesome.
And
Yes.
if you ever want to come back, I think we'd love to have you back again.
For sure. Absolutely. And I'm very much looking forward to the hashtag list that you come up with for your own episode. That's
Yeah.
going to be awesome.
He's going to put hashtag I'm awesome.
Perfect.
Before we go, is there anything else you want to add or say that you haven't gotten to say yet while you got your moment here?
No, I very much appreciate this. I've been a fan for a year, and I was extraordinarily nervous coming on here, to be real honest. You guys do way more research than I do, and I'm just glad that I hope you don't get canceled by the FCC or whoever
Oh,
The
no,
FCC.
no, we're good.
is that monitors your podcast.
If we get big enough where we're noticed by the FCC, we'll take it.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely, we will.
No, a great time. I really appreciate all of you.
Awesome.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for being
we
on.
enjoyed it. All right, here's the Preacher Row for you.
See you guys.
Okay.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Standing on my own 2 feet. No one's here to comfort me. sorry for what I have done. Sorry that your song is gone. 7 steps and it will be my last. Next time, tell me on my back. I turn and I look to you. I'm scared, but there's nothing I can do.